the stage awaits, draped in shadows. Even before the Great War, a new spirit stirred within the theater, a yearning to express the inner world, not just reflect the outer one. Hints of distortion creep into the painted backdrops, a subtle unease in the angles of the sets. The lighting grows bolder, less concerned with mere illumination, more interested in sculpting emotion. These were the seeds of Expressionism, quietly taking root. Then came the war, a cataclysm that shattered old certainties. Empires crumbled, and the world was irrevocably changed. From the ashes of conflict arose a new generation, disillusioned and searching for meaning. Berlin, the heart of the shattered German nation, became a crucible of creativity and chaos. The 1920s roared with a frenetic energy. Nightclubs pulsed with jazz music. Artists experimented with radical new forms, and the streets teemed with a restless populace. It was a time of unprecedented freedom and experimentation, but also of social and economic instability. This tension, this push and pull between exhilaration and despair, fueled the Expressionist movement. The theater became a vital outlet for these pent-up emotions. Designers threw off the shackles of realism, embracing abstraction and symbolism. Sets became jagged landscapes of the mind, reflecting the characters' inner turmoil. Colors were heightened, distorted, used to evoke feelings of anxiety, alienation, and longing. Imagine a stage set for a play about a tormented soul. The buildings lean inward, threatening to crush the protagonist. Sharp angles and stark shadows create a sense of claustrophobia. The colors are jarring, clashing reds and sickly greens, reflecting the characters' inner chaos. This is not a literal representation of reality, but a visual manifestation of the character's psychological state. This was the essence of Expressionist set design. It was a bold attempt to externalize the internal, to make the invisible visible. It was a way of grappling with the anxieties and uncertainties of the modern world, a world reeling from war and grappling with the rise of industrialization and urbanization. The stage became a canvas for exploring the darkest corners of the human psyche. And Berlin, with its vibrant artistic community and its atmosphere of unrest, was the perfect breeding ground for this revolutionary movement. The theaters of the city became laboratories of innovation, where designers pushed the boundaries of what was possible and challenged audiences to see the world in a new light. The theaters of the city became laboratories of innovation, where designers pushed the boundaries of what was possible and challenged audiences to see the world in a new light. Berlin in the 1920s was a place of stark contrasts, a society recovering from war even as it embraced a newfound sense of freedom and experimentation. The weight of the past pressed against the exuberance of the present, creating a fertile ground for artistic expression that was both deeply personal and intensely political. Amidst this backdrop, the Expressionist set designers flourished, their work reflecting the anxieties and aspirations of a generation grappling with profound social and economic upheaval. Their designs were not merely backdrops, but active participants in the storytelling, shaping the emotional landscape of the plays and films they adorned. Each angled shadow, each distorted perspective spoke volumes about the inner turmoil of the characters and the world they inhabited. One influential observer of this era was Siegfried Kracauer, whose seminal work, From Caligari to Hitler, offered a critical analysis of German cinema and its relationship to the rise of totalitarianism. Kracauer argued that the films of the Weimar Republic, including those with expressionist design elements, foreshadowed the coming darkness, reflecting a collective yearning for order and authority. He saw in the distorted sets and exaggerated performances a reflection of the German psyche, predisposed to authoritarianism and susceptible to the seductive power of propaganda. Kracauer's thesis remains a subject of debate, but it underscores the profound impact that Expressionist art had on the cultural and political landscape of the time. The sets themselves became characters, looming over the action, their jagged edges and unsettling angles mirroring the fractured state of German society. The use of light and shadow was particularly striking, creating a sense of unease and disorientation. Stark contrasts emphasized the psychological states of the characters, highlighting their isolation and vulnerability. Buildings leaned at impossible angles, streets twisted into nightmarish labyrinths, and interiors became claustrophobic spaces, reflecting the characters' inner torment. Color palettes were often restricted, with muted tones and jarring splashes of vibrant hues used to heighten the emotional impact. The overall effect was one of heightened reality, where the boundaries between the real and the imagined blurred. Within these stylized environments, actors moved with deliberate, often exaggerated gestures, embodying the emotional intensity of the Expressionist aesthetic. Their movements were angular and jerky, their faces contorted into masks of anguish or ecstasy. The dialogue was often sparse, relying on visual cues and symbolic imagery to convey meaning. The Expressionist set became an extension of the actor's performance, amplifying their emotions and immersing the audience in their subjective experience. The Expressionist set became an extension of the actor's performance, amplifying their emotions and immersing the audience in their subjective experience. The stark angles and distorted perspectives served to disorient, forcing a confrontation with uncomfortable truths. Siegfried Kracauer, in his seminal work, From Caligari to Hitler, explored the psychological undercurrents of German cinema during the Weimar Republic. He posited that the themes and visual styles prevalent in films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari reflected a deeper societal yearning for authoritarianism. Krakauer argued that the film's nightmarish world, with its irrational architecture and tyrannical figures, mirrored the collective anxieties and suppressed desires of a nation teetering on the brink of political extremism. He saw the exaggerated shadows and claustrophobic spaces as symbolic of the psychological turmoil brewing beneath the surface of German society. Krakauer's analysis extended beyond cinema, suggesting that the Expressionist aesthetic, in its various forms, served as a premonition of the horrors to come. The distorted realities presented on stage and screen were not merely artistic choices, but rather manifestations of a collective unconscious grappling with profound social and political instability. The visual hallmarks of Expressionist stage design are immediately recognizable. Sets were often characterized by sharp, angular forms, defying traditional perspective and creating a sense of unease. Jagged lines and tilted walls conveyed a world out of balance, reflecting the psychological distress of the characters and the broader societal anxieties of the time. Lighting played a crucial role, with stark contrasts of light and shadow used to heighten the dramatic effect and create a sense of foreboding. Unnatural colors, such as lurid greens and sickly yellows, were frequently employed to evoke a sense of decay and moral corruption. The overall effect was one of disorientation and emotional intensity, designed to unsettle the audience and challenge their perceptions of reality. Minimalist set pieces were favored, with emphasis placed on symbolic representation rather than realistic depiction. A single, sharply angled chair or a towering, distorted doorway could convey more meaning than a fully furnished room. This focus on essential forms allowed the audience to project their own fears and anxieties onto the stage, creating a deeply personal and unsettling theatrical experience. The intention was never to create a believable environment, but rather to externalize the inner turmoil of the characters and the collective anxieties of the era. The intention was never to create a believable environment, but rather to externalize the inner turmoil of the characters and the collective anxieties of the era. The stage became a canvas for the subconscious, a space where the invisible forces of emotion and societal pressure took tangible form. Visual hallmarks of Expressionist stage design included stark contrasts in light and shadow. Angular shapes dominated the scenery, creating a sense of unease and instability. Colors were often used symbolically, with bold, clashing hues representing heightened emotional states. backdrops were rarely flat or realistic. Instead, they were fragmented and distorted, reflecting the fractured reality of the time. One of the most striking characteristics was the use of exaggerated perspectives and distorted forms. Buildings might lean at impossible angles. Doorways could shrink or expand unexpectedly, and furniture often appeared warped and unsettling. These distortions were not arbitrary. They served to disorient the audience and draw them into the psychological landscape of the play. Imagine a stage set for a production of Georg Kaiser's From Morn to Midnight. The backdrop is a cityscape, but not one you would recognize. Buildings tower precariously, their windows like vacant eyes staring out into the night. The lines are sharp and jagged, creating a sense of oppressive confinement. A single street lamp casts a harsh, unnatural light, illuminating the scene with an unsettling glow. Or picture the setting for Ernst Toller's Man and the Masses. The stage is dominated by a massive, abstract structure that resembles a prison or a factory. Its walls are covered in grotesque, distorted figures, their faces contorted in expressions of anguish and despair. The air is thick with a sense of dread and hopelessness, reflecting the dehumanizing effects of industrial society. These exaggerated perspectives and distorted forms were not merely aesthetic choices. They were integral to the Expressionist project of revealing the inner world of the characters. By distorting the external environment, the designers aimed to expose the hidden anxieties and repressed desires that lurked beneath the surface of everyday life. The stage became a mirror, reflecting the psychological fragmentation of the individual in the modern world. Consider the use of forced perspective to create a sense of claustrophobia. Walls might converge sharply, making the stage feel smaller and more confining. Ceilings could appear to be dangerously low, pressing down on the characters and the audience alike. This technique was often used to symbolize the oppressive forces of society and the psychological constraints that limited individual freedom. Or imagine the use of distorted scale to create a sense of alienation. Objects might be disproportionately large or small, making the characters feel insignificant and powerless in comparison. This technique was often used to represent the overwhelming nature of the modern world and the individual's struggle to find meaning and purpose in a rapidly changing society. The goal was always to make the invisible visible, to give form to the intangible forces that shaped human experience. The goal was always to make the invisible visible, to give form to the intangible forces that shaped human experience. Exaggerated perspectives draw the eye, pulling it into impossible spaces. Walls lean at unnatural angles, ceilings loom oppressively or vanish altogether. Doorways shrink or expand, defying logic, creating unease and a sense of being lost within the very architecture. Windows become eyes, staring back at the audience, reflecting the turmoil within the characters. Nothing feels quite right, quite stable. The familiar is made alien, and the alien disturbingly familiar. It is a world where the ground itself seems to shift beneath your feet. This deliberate distortion serves to amplify the emotional impact of the drama, mirroring the fractured psyche of the characters and the anxieties of the era. Shadows stretch and contort, becoming characters in their own right. Pools of darkness gather in corners, obscuring details, hinting at unseen dangers. Light is not merely illumination, but a tool of dramatic emphasis, spotlighting moments of revelation or casting figures into stark relief. A single beam might cut through the darkness, isolating a character in their moment of crisis. The interplay of light and shadow creates a visual language of its own, speaking of hidden motives, suppressed desires, and the ever-present threat of the unknown. The source of the light is often unclear, adding to the sense of disorientation. It might emanate from below, creating grotesque and unnatural highlights, or from above, suggesting a divine judgment. The effect is unsettling, heightening the emotional tension and drawing the audience deeper into the psychological landscape of the play. Every surface becomes a canvas for the play of light and shadow. Walls are textured to catch the light in unexpected ways, creating patterns that shift and change with the slightest movement. Fabrics are chosen for their ability to absorb or reflect light, adding depth and complexity to the visual composition. The overall effect is one of heightened drama, where every element of the set design contributes to the emotional impact of the scene. It's a world where nothing is quite as it seems, where the familiar is made strange, and where the audience is invited to confront the darker aspects of the human psyche. The light flickers, casting long, dancing shadows. The air itself seems to vibrate with unspoken tension. The air itself seems to vibrate with unspoken tension. It's a palpable thing, a weight settling on the shoulders as you move deeper into the theater. The stagehands work with a quiet intensity, their movements precise and deliberate under the watchful gaze of the director. Light becomes a character in itself, not merely illumination, but a sculptor of mood. Harsh angles of light slice through the darkness, creating deep pools of shadow that seem to swallow whole sections of the set. One moment, a face is illuminated with stark clarity. The next, it vanishes into obscurity, leaving only a hint of an outline. This interplay of light and shadow amplifies the emotional weight of the drama, turning the stage into a canvas of feeling. The shadows lengthen and twist, distorting familiar shapes into menacing silhouettes. The intention is not to replicate reality, but to expose the raw nerves beneath the surface. the stage becomes a landscape of the mind, reflecting the fractured psyche of the characters and the turbulent times they inhabit. The scenery itself is a language of symbols and broken forms. There are no realistic recreations of drawing rooms or city streets here. Instead, jagged walls lean at impossible angles. Doors hang askew, never quite closing properly. Staircases lead nowhere, or perhaps to places best left unvisited. Each element is carefully chosen, not for its accuracy, but for its emotional resonance. A single chair, bathed in an unnerving green light, becomes a symbol of isolation and despair. A shattered mirror reflects fragmented images, hinting at a broken sense of self. The stage is not a place of comfort or familiarity, but a disorienting space where the boundaries of reality begin to blur. The colors are bold and unsettling, clashing with a deliberate disharmony. Crimson bleeds into sickly yellows, offset by jarring streaks of black. The palette is designed to assault the senses, to jolt the audience out of complacency, and force them to confront the uncomfortable truths that lie beneath the surface of everyday life. As the final set pieces are put in place, a sense of unease settles over the entire space. This is not a world to be admired or envied, but a reflection of the anxieties and uncertainties that plague the human spirit. The stage is set not for entertainment, but for an exploration of the darkest corners of the human heart. The stage is set not for entertainment, but for an exploration of the darkest corners of the human heart. The sets themselves become characters, warped and distorted reflections of the inner turmoil raging within the play's protagonists. Walls slant at impossible angles. Doors shrink or loom large, defying perspective. Windows offer glimpses of fractured cityscapes, a world shattered into a million pieces. Nothing is quite as it seems. Everyday objects take on menacing new forms. A simple chair becomes a throne of despair. A table, a battleground for unspoken desires. Light and shadow dance across these jagged landscapes, creating an atmosphere of unease and lurking dread. The stark contrasts amplify the emotional intensity, highlighting the characters' isolation and alienation. Symbolism reigns supreme. Every element, from the smallest prop to the grandest architectural feature, carries a deeper meaning. A broken mirror reflects the fractured psyche. A single flickering candle represents a fragile hope. These are not mere backdrops, but active participants in the drama. They breathe and pulse with the characters' emotions, mirroring their anxieties and fears. The set becomes a physical manifestation of the subconscious. Among the visionary artists who pioneered this radical new approach to stage design, several names stand out. One such figure is Walter Riemann, known for his work on the film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. His designs, stark and angular, capture the film's nightmarish atmosphere, creating a world where madness reigns. Rieman's sets are not just decorative, they are integral to the film's narrative, shaping the viewer's perception of reality. Another key figure is Hermann Worm, who also contributed to the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Worm's designs are characterized by their bold use of color and their exaggerated forms. He understood the power of set design to evoke emotion and to create a sense of unease. His work helped to establish the visual language of German Expressionist cinema and theater. Caspar Neher was another influential designer, known for his collaborations with Bertolt Brecht. Neher's sets were often stark and minimalist, focusing on the essential elements needed to tell the story. He used simple materials and bold colors to create powerful images that resonated with audiences. Neher's designs were not just visually striking, they were also deeply political, reflecting Brecht's Marxist beliefs. These designers, and many others, helped to create a new visual language for the stage, one that reflected the anxieties and uncertainties of the Weimar Republic. Their work continues to inspire artists today, demonstrating the enduring power of Expressionist set design. Their work continues to inspire artists today, demonstrating the enduring power of Expressionist set design. Think of figures like Hermann Worm, Walter Riemann, and Walter Röhrig. These were some of the brilliant minds shaping the visual landscape of Weimar cinema. Each brought a unique vision, contributing to the movement's distinctive style. Their designs were not merely backdrops, but active participants in the storytelling. They warped perspectives. Consider Hermann Worm, for instance. His innovative use of light and shadow created a sense of unease and psychological depth. Walter Riemann's bold, angular forms conveyed the emotional turmoil of the characters. Walter Röhrig's sets often featured distorted architecture, reflecting the fractured state of German society at the time. These designers understood how set design could amplify the narrative, creating a truly immersive and unsettling experience. Their work was deeply rooted in the Expressionist aesthetic, which sought to express inner emotions through external forms. This meant embracing distortion, exaggeration, and symbolism. Perhaps the most iconic example of Expressionist set design is the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Released in 1920, this silent horror film remains a touchstone for the movement. The sets, designed by Worm, Riemann, and Röhrig, are a masterclass in visual storytelling. Nothing is quite right in Caligari. Buildings lean at impossible angles. Windows are jagged and askew. Shadows stretch and contort, creating a sense of perpetual dread. The film's distorted aesthetic reflects the madness and paranoia at the heart of the story. It's as if the very world is conspiring against the characters. The sets are not just a backdrop, but a physical manifestation of their psychological state. The film's influence can be seen in countless works of art and cinema that followed. It established Expressionist set design as a powerful tool for conveying emotion and creating atmosphere. Even today, the cabinet of Dr. Caligari continues to inspire designers and filmmakers. The film's nightmarish vision lingers. It sets a testament to the power of imagination and the enduring appeal of Expressionism cast a long shadow. The visual language of Caligari is still felt. It echoes in the work of contemporary artists who seek to explore the darker aspects of the human psyche. The film's enduring legacy lies in its ability to create a world that is both disturbing and strangely beautiful. It's a world where the line between reality and madness blurs. It's a world where the line between reality and madness blurs. Angular buildings lean in, threatening to topple. Shadows stretch and distort familiar forms. The set design owes a great debt to the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, perhaps the quintessential example of Expressionist film. You recall the film's jagged, unsettling landscapes. The painted shadows and distorted perspectives created a sense of unease and psychological turmoil. You see echoes of that film's influence everywhere. The sets are not merely backdrops, but active participants in the unfolding drama. The influence of Expressionist painting is also undeniable. Artists like Ernst Ludwig Kirchner and Emil Nold sought to express inner emotions through bold colors, distorted forms, and jarring compositions. Their paintings rejected naturalism in favor of subjective experience. You feel that same spirit here. Buildings tilt at impossible angles. Windows are narrow slits, offering only glimpses of the outside world. Colors are heightened and unnatural. The overall effect is one of claustrophobia and disorientation. You see a stagehand adjusting a painted backdrop. The colors are garish, sickly greens, lurid oranges, and blood reds. The brush strokes are thick and visible, adding to the sense of unease. It's as if the very walls are screaming. The actors move through this distorted world like sleepwalkers. Their movements are jerky and unnatural, mirroring the angularity of the sets. Their faces are often masked in heavy makeup, further blurring the line between reality and artifice. The lighting is harsh and dramatic, casting long, distorted shadows. Pools of light and darkness create a sense of mystery and foreboding. You notice how the light seems to cling to certain objects, emphasizing their strangeness. You pause to examine a prop, a telephone with an unusually long and twisted cord. It seems almost alive, reaching out like a tentacle. The object is both familiar and alien, embodying the expressionist aesthetic. The air is thick with anticipation. You can feel the energy of the actors and crew as they prepare for the performance. The stage is a world unto itself, a microcosm of the anxieties and uncertainties of the time. The set designers have created a space that is both beautiful and terrifying. It is a reflection of the inner turmoil of the characters and the broader societal anxieties of the Weimar Republic. You feel a sense of both fascination and unease as you take it all in. The distorted reality of the stage seems to seep into your own perception. The distorted reality of the stage seems to seep into your own perception, blurring the line between the play and the world outside. It's as if the anxiety of Berlin itself is being projected onto the canvas of the theater. The influence of Expressionist painting becomes increasingly clear. Jagged lines and clashing colors dominate the set design, mirroring the canvases of artists like Kirchner and Heckel. Buildings tilt at impossible angles, casting long, unnatural shadows that seem to possess a life of their own. The use of color is jarring, with sickly greens and lurid reds, creating a sense of unease and disorientation. It's a world where perspective is deliberately skewed, reflecting the fractured psyche of post-war Germany. The artists are not merely creating visually striking sets. They are crafting environments that embody a particular emotional state. Fear, paranoia, and disillusionment are palpable in every brushstroke. The sets become extensions of the characters' inner turmoil, externalizing their anxieties and psychological wounds. It's a world where the external and internal landscapes merge, creating a powerful and unsettling experience for the audience. The political undertones of these productions are unmistakable. The exaggerated forms and grotesque imagery serve as a critique of the social and political order. The theater becomes a space for protest, a platform for challenging the status quo. The plays often depict the corruption and decadence of the ruling class, exposing the hypocrisy and moral decay that lie beneath the surface of society. The set designs themselves often carry symbolic weight. A towering, oppressive structure might represent the power of the state, while a cramped, claustrophobic space could symbolize the individual's struggle against conformity. The artists use visual metaphors to convey their message, creating layers of meaning that resonate with the audience on both a conscious and subconscious level. Social commentary is woven into the very fabric of the sets. The plays frequently address issues such as poverty, inequality, and the dehumanizing effects of industrialization. The set designs often depict the harsh realities of urban life, with scenes of overcrowded tenements, polluted streets, and desolate factories. The artists use their work to expose the suffering of the working class and to challenge the indifference of the wealthy elite. The theater becomes a mirror, reflecting the anxieties and tensions of a society on the brink. The expressionistic sets amplify these feelings, creating a visceral and unforgettable experience for the audience. The plays are not merely entertainment. They are a call to action, a demand for change. The artists use their creative power to challenge the prevailing norms and to inspire hope for a better future. The artists use their creative power to challenge the prevailing norms and to inspire hope for a better future. Amidst the visual spectacle, political undertones, and social commentary simmered just beneath the surface. Set designs became a language, a means to critique the establishment, dissect societal ills, and question the very fabric of reality. The stark angles and distorted perspectives reflected the unease and anxiety of a nation grappling with economic hardship and political instability. The stage was no longer a mere backdrop. It was a battleground for ideas, a space where the collective consciousness could be confronted and challenged. Expressionist design served as a mirror reflecting a fractured society. The theatrical productions of the era were bold and innovative, pushing the boundaries of artistic expression. One notable production was the reimagining of classic Greek tragedies. These ancient stories were infused with modern sensibilities, the sets reflecting the psychological torment and existential angst of the characters. Another landmark production was a daring adaptation of a German folk tale. The stage was transformed into a surreal landscape, with towering, jagged structures looming over the actors. The lighting cast long, distorted shadows, creating an atmosphere of paranoia and dread. The use of unconventional materials, such as scrap metal and found objects, further emphasized the sense of decay and disrepair. Experimental dramas explored themes of social injustice and political corruption. The sets were deliberately stark and minimalist, focusing attention on the actors and their message. The use of bold colors and jarring contrasts created a sense of unease and disorientation. These productions were often met with controversy, but they sparked important conversations about the state of the nation. These theatrical endeavors were not simply entertainment. They were acts of rebellion, a defiant cry against conformity and oppression. The expressionist set designers of the Weimar Republic used their art to challenge the status quo and to inspire hope for a better future. Their work remains a testament to the power of art to shape society and to ignite the imagination. The stages of Berlin became canvases for the anxieties and aspirations of a generation. The art